This was called the Hebrew city by the early historians. Look at the oil lamp. See this right here? That's an oil lamp. This is a 9 candelabra, or what they call a Hanukkah. They call it also menorah, but it's a 9 one, which is typical for the Hanukkahs. Every mark of the garment can be found in the outside of the walls here. This is the place of entrance. Would you call this unusual? I'll tell you how unusual it was. 1905, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came to Milford, Ohio with their bulldozers, and they leveled this entire site. The small forts, the hilltop forts, and the geometric works, never touched them. But this one, it's flat. And it's only because of Squire and Davis's early survey work in the 1840s that we have this information today. Otherwise, I won't even be showing it to you because we wouldn't know about it. Squire and Davis did us a great service by running through Ohio. It's called Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, and they surveyed hundreds of these earthworks. If they had not done that work, I wouldn't have half this information to share with you tonight. Squire and Davis. Next one. Alma 16 and 11. Nevertheless, after many days, their dead bodies were heaped up upon the face of the earth, and they were covered with a shallow covering. These are called battle mounds. We find battle mounds from Missouri all the way to western New York, from Wisconsin to Tennessee. And this is what one looks like when you uncover it. This is a battle mound. Men, women, and children. Sometimes it's just men, but oftentimes genocide took place. Everybody got the axe. And this is what it looks like. Not a pretty sight. Battle mounds. Next one. In the Book of Mormon, the artists that have done our paintings in the church have taken what we call artistic license. They've given our guys what we call Middle Eastern military wear, like breastplates and helmets. You will not find the word helmet anywhere in the Book of Mormon. What you will find is this word, headplates and breastplates. And headplates and breastplates is what I'm going to show you. I'm going to look at one scripture right here. I will point out one thing. By the time you get to Helaman 1:4, when the Lamanites are on the attack, they now are also armored in headplates and breastplates like the Nephites. They're no longer naked, which is really too bad for the Nephites. However, let's take a look at Alma 43 and 38. We'll just read one of them. Now there was now and then a man fell among the Nephites by their swords and the loss of blood, they being shielded from the more vital parts of the body, or the more vital parts of the body being shielded from the strokes of the Lamanites by their breastplates, their arm shields, and their headplates. And thus the Nephites did carry on the work of death among the Lamanites. Let's take a look. This is a headplate. Back here, this is the back of the head. This is all made out of hardened copper. This goes up to the crown of the head, all the way over to the forehead. These things here cover the ears and the cheekbones, right down the side of the head. These are grommets. And we know from the early digs that this was held on with some kind of a leather cap. In other words, these pieces were built into a leather cap to hold them in place. But we don't have a whole one, so we can't really draw one to show you what it looks like. But this is a copper headplate worn by Hopewell people. Next one. This is another one. Look at the cheek guard. These are cheek guards and temple guards, like a rabbit ear, just made to cover the whole side of your face. This is the back of the head. This is the front of the head. Head plates. And what do the archaeologists in North America call these things? Head plates. Amazing. Next one. Now this is interesting. Here's a guy buried, all stretched out. But this guy over here, he took a head with him to the grave. He's got a copper head plate on his head. So here's a Nephite that probably lost his head in battle, buried with probably either a apostate Nephite or a Lamanite, who can say? But there it is. And this is the conch from the Gulf. Next one. This is a man and a woman buried side by side, and notice on the man's head, he was buried with his head plate on. Can you focus that, please? It's a little fuzzy. Thank you. See the head plate? Right there. Copper head plates. That's what we find with the Hopewell people. And that's what the Nephites tell us they wore to protect their soldiers. Arm shields. These are out of Michigan. This will go on top of the shoulder. This will go from the shoulder down to the ankle. It's hard to see, but there's little teeny holes all around the edges here. This was sewed on to a garment of some type, whether it be leather or cloth. It was sewn on. That's how it was held in place. And this is what a breastplate looks like. These also were attached probably with some type of leather or cloth cords to the body. Again, we don't know how it worked because they're all rotted. But this is solid copper. All from where? Michigan. Michigan copper. Next one. This is Newark, Ohio, and I show this for a lot of reasons. One in particular is the Book of Alma, chapter 63. They had lost the city of Nephihah, and Moroni wanted it back really bad. And when I first read this years and years ago, it really kind of threw me for a loop, because it says that the Lamanites had captured the city, and they decided now they would give the Nephites a bad turn, and they themselves would camp near the place of entrance, expecting the Nephites to rush them, and so they could really whack them like they'd been whacked, at the place of entrance. And so while the Lamanites slept on the east side of the city, the Book of Mormon says that Moroni, with ladders, took the whole army over the west side of the city and got inside without being detected. I thought, my gosh, how big are these towns? Well, this right here covers a 7-mile circumference. That's pretty good size for an ancient city. If you were to go from here to here as a crow flies, that's 2.5 miles. Today, the city of Newark, Ohio sits on top of all of this. All that's left today is this circle and this octagon works and this circle right here. Everything else here is gone. It's all been built on top of. I've got an aerial shot of this octagon works right here. I'm sorry, the circle. And we're going to focus right here. Next one. This is an aerial photograph. How many people here golf? You can go to Newark, Ohio and golf this course on top of a Hopewell earthworks. Clubhouse is right up there on the top. And look at the circle, how perfect it is. These walls of earth are engineered of gravel and clay and other dirts and sands. They were made to last. And that's exactly what they have done. They've lasted throughout the years. This right here is a stone called the Ohio Decalogue Stone. It was discovered by 11 men digging at the bottom of a huge stone mound in Ohio. And when they got to the bottom of the mound, they found a man in a wooden coffin, an oak coffin. Upon opening the coffin, the bones literally fell apart because of air contact, and that's very common in archaeology. Once they're exposed, the bones begin to fall apart instantly. But they found a stone box, which you can see the corners showing in this picture. The box was cemented shut. When they got it open, this black stone came out of it. This black stone is on display today at Coshocton, Ohio, in the Coshocton Museum. You can go there and see it. But on this stone, totally readable, is the 10 Commandments in ancient Hebrew in Ohio. But yet, it's never been accepted. Why? Because before Columbus, no Europeans, no Israelites. This can't be real. It has to be false. But yet, it's there. Here's another one. This one was exhumed by archaeologists from the Smithsonian, and still it has not taken its proper place that it should. This is Paleo-Hebrew. It says for the land of Judah. They put this on display in the Smithsonian upside down and said it was ancient Cherokee writing. Well, they admitted that much. One day, when it was taken off display, a Hebrew night watchman happened to bump the display that this was sitting on and knocked this stone over, and he picked it up this way, and he said, "Hey, I can read this. This is Hebrew." So he told the museum, and now when you go and see it, it says, well, it might be Hebrew, but it still may be Cherokee. They won't even admit that, yet it was exhumed by 9 archaeologists. Bat Creek, Tennessee. Paleo-Hebrew. Midwest. Before Columbus. Hopewell timeline. Parallels. This was found in Upper Michigan. This is a combination of Minoan, Greek, and Hebrew letters. We just don't know what it is. It's 140-some characters. This was found in the 1880s. About 1/3 of the stone is still left today. It's in a museum in Upper Michigan because they gave the guy such a hard time they found it. He used it for a stepping foot to get into his barn for years. And a lot of it got crumbled and destroyed. And that's what happens to the anomalies. They're not real, so they're not taken care of. Next one. This here is a Michigan tablet. Over 10,000 of these were found throughout the state of Michigan. I have one up here on display that you can see it. It's this copper tablet right here. 10,000 of these came out of Michigan. 27 counties, Michigan copper, along with slate and clay pieces. The top 1/3 plate, those are Egyptian hieroglyphs, all readable from the Book of the Dead. You pick up a book by Budge, which is the leading authority on that, after Champollion of France, and you'll find every character in the Book of the Dead. And you can translate that because they've already got it translated for you. You can read that whole top plate. Down at the bottom here is the Michigan script, which cannot be read. And here, I got to get it so you can see this. If you can see my fingers, you see these, oh boy, right there. You see that? Does that help? Those 5 little nail-looking figures. I got to tell you about that because that's what makes the Michigan tablet so very important. Next slide, please. I was in Minnesota, 1994, talking to a group of 200 men. It was some kind of a men's club. And I was showing them Michigan plates. I've got probably, 2,000 photographs of Michigan plates. And I showed them just plate after plate after plate, what they look like. They're fascinating. But this symbol, we call it the mystic symbol by Henriette Mertz. It's on almost every piece. And so when I finished my talk that night, I had a Native American come up to me who was an Algonquin and an Ojibwa. You know, that good old Great Lakes stuff where that DNA's found. And he points to this crazy looking thing and he says, "That's our stuff." And I said, "Boy, you got my attention." I said, "Can you tell me about it?" He says, "I'll tell you a little." He says, "That's the name of Creator." You see, when you talk to the Indians, you can't talk about God and Jesus Christ. You got to talk about Creator and Creator's Son. If you say that, that opens the door. Don't talk about God and Jesus. Got to talk about Creator and Creator's Son, because that's their lingo. Okay? It makes a big world of difference. But anyway, he says, I said, "Can you read this?" He says, "Oh, sure." He said, "You read it from right to left. And this is the sound it makes. Yod Heva. Yod Heva." And he said, "There's a 4th sound, but we only say it once a year when our medicine priest goes into the Medowin Lodge by himself and performs ceremony, and he asks the Creator to forgive the Ojibwa people for all their sins as a nation." Does that sound familiar? Anybody else do that in the Old Testament? The Holy of Holies, once a year for the house of Israel. Ask forgiveness as a nation. Interesting stuff. Yod Heva. Notice how many spikes there are. This is cuneiform. Where does cuneiform come from? It comes from the Middle East. It comes from Samaria. It comes from the Hittites. It would come also from the Jaredites. They would have known this. This cuneiform became an international language that lasted for about 1,000 years after the flood, because people could still read it and talk it and write it. And yet now we find it here in North America. Isn't that interesting? Cuneiform. And why 5? Why 5 nails? How many nails crucified the Lord? How many? 5? Symbolism. Very symbolic. Let's go to the next one. I took this information, I sent it to a non-LDS professor in Massachusetts. I sent it to an LDS professor in Utah. I just said, "What is this sign?" And both of them came back and said exactly the same thing that the Indian told me it was. Yod Heva. Yod Heva He is all 4 syllables. This is it. And there it is, written in modern-day Hebrew on your right. That's modern-day Hebrew. And this is cuneiform Hebrew right over here. And there's the book. You can find it if you want to read more about it. Dr. James Hurtak. There's your source. Okay? North America. Oh, guess what? More cuneiform, son of a gun. 2000 BC, a Mesopotamian cuneiform tablet which was reportedly found in the area of Quaker City, Ohio by a persistent point hunter, turns out to be a genuine artifact from the 3rd dynasty of Ur. It dates to about 2000 BC, according to David D. Owen, professor of Near Eastern Studies at Cornell University in New York. Here's your cuneiform up here, and it's smattered throughout here. Look at the date. How does a piece of cuneiform get here in 2000?